It gets pretty crazy. There's some rollovers, there's some crashes, but we just keep doing it. And I got to race my dad there. So that was really special. And I may or may not have beat him, but it was definitely cool to get out there and race with him. And like I mentioned before, we have the radios. So me and Dad were able to talk to each other through the trucks. So we were kind of each other up while we're on the track. And it was a really fun one. We still celebrate people's birthdays if they happen to be close to the race weekend. And they bring cupcakes and everyone hangs out at night after the races. Like you said, it's a big family and I love it. I think that's my favorite part of racing is just that family atmosphere.
Warning. The 4x4 Canada podcast contains discussion about exploring mountains, camping beside lakes, and enjoying the outdoors. Guests also talk about jumping race trucks side by side, racing 1,000 horsepower rigs across mud pits, and jumping monster trucks over stacks of buses. None of this is for the faint of heart. The 4x4 Canada podcast is not responsible for bringing out your inner adrenaline junkie or making you want to get out there and explore the back roads from coast to coast. The 4x4 Canada podcast is not responsible for broken parts due to jumping your vehicle, hitting mud poles too hard, crossing deep streams, and doing other dumb shit. However, we will take credit for inspiring you to explore mountaintops, spend quality time outdoors with your friends, or meeting new like-minded people, and most importantly of all, following your dreams. Welcome to the 4x4 Canada podcast. My name is Wes.
And I'm your host, Trisha.
And my name is Nicole.
Nicole, thanks for coming out tonight. You and I have been chatting for a while, and I was involved with the Ontario racing for a number of years, so I know your father and grandfather, and I've been really excited about having you on. You've had a great last couple of years with off-road racing in Ontario. Trisha and I have been talking, and she's a bit of a speed freak, and we got to get more women on, and you came to mind instantly. So really stoked to have you on tonight. Before we get into it, we've got a couple quick housekeeping things. I want to remind everybody, check us out at 4x4canadapodcast.com, as well as on our Instagram and Facebook as 4x4 Canada. We're really doing more on the Instagram these days. And the other thing, too, is if you have somebody in mind that you think would be a great guest, or if you want to be a guest yourself, please feel free to DM us or send us an email via our website, DM us on Instagram, and we're always looking for more guests, and we're looking for a variety of guests. We have YouTube people, we have off-road racers. We've got last week we had the Rebel Rally ladies from West Kelowna, and today we got Nicole. She's a Ontario off-road racer, and next week we've got a jeeping lady out of Ontario. We've got Trillium Off-Road Recovery coming out of Ontario. We've got the Mega Trucks guys coming out of Alberta. We've got a couple of interviews coming up with them and with the Axle Busters out of Alberta, as well as the Extreme Mud event out of Alberta. And we're just working on a timeline to get Billy on board with that. And speaking of the Extreme Mud Fest up in Northern Alberta, it's going to be an incredible episode. They have mega trucks. We're talking 3,500 horsepower, 52-inch tractor tires. We're talking mud drags. They got bull riding. They've got concerts. They've got sheepdogs headlining on Saturday night. It's going to be an incredible event. So we've got Billy coming on in February to talk about that event. And of course, we got lots of YouTube people as well. We've had Just Jeeping Adventures. He was just on a couple weeks ago with his tracks on his Jeep. And so we have a wide variety, but we want to hear from you guys what you want to hear. Are you into the racing? Are you into the overlanding? So let us know. And we appreciate any feedback we can get, positive or negative. So enough of that stuff, Nicole. Let's talk racing. So welcome to the 4x4 Canada podcast. Really want to thank you for taking the time and coming on tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Not a problem. You're a third generation off-road racer from Ontario. Our listeners can follow you and your dad at McCrossan_motorsports on Instagram, as well as you put a lot of stuff on your own Instagram too, right? And I have to apologize. I forgot to write that down. What is yours?
It's _Christina_MC.
Perfect. Okay. We'll put those in the show notes as well, too. And we'll tag you on the Instagram as well. Now, as mentioned, you are a third generation off-road racer. I know your dad has raced for a number of years, and your grandfather raced as well in the 90s and that, I believe. And you are lucky enough to be driving your dad's old Bronco that he raced in Ontario, right?
Yes. Yeah, he raced it from 85 to 99. So after that, it got put away in the barn and forgotten about. And when I started talking about getting into racing and I started looking at trucks and I was sending him ads from Kijiji and Facebook, and he's, what are you doing? Like, we've got one in the barn. And I'm like, what? Really? So we went up there and we pulled that thing out. And yeah, that was the beginning of the end.
That's going to be pretty neat. You grew up watching the racing, watching your dad race. He raced in Ontario, like you mentioned. And he also raced Pro 4 down in the States for a number of years. And then recently with his new early Bronco, he's raced the Nora 1000, which I believe you went down to Mexico as well with him on that. But is it something that you enjoyed as a kid, or is it something that came later on when you started to drive on your own?
So I've always loved the atmosphere of racing. I don't particularly remember the specific tracks that we would go to, but I do remember like hanging out with the other kids, running around, collecting stickers, going on the tracks and just pulling all the fiberglass parts off and getting anyone and everyone to sign them. So that was just a really cool experience. And the friends that I've made growing up with my dad racing are a lot of the guys that I race with today or are involved with ORA, which is really cool. One of the guys, Hayden, he was the son of someone that was on my dad's pit crew, and he races a buggy. So when I showed up to the first race in Ontario, seeing him there, it was like, holy crap, like what a blast from the past. So that was really cool to reconnect with everyone that I grew up with.
That's cool. Mm-hmm. And ORA is the Ontario Off-Road Association?
Yes,
right?
That's correct.
Okay. Yeah, it's and I should mention that this is wheel-to-wheel racing. That is, there's no desert racing or long-distance racing in Ontario. But yeah, the Ontario Off-Road Racing Association is wheel-to-wheel racing, and we'll get into that in a bit because they have a great little series going. It has ups and downs throughout the years, as all associations do, because they are volunteer based. But yeah, they seem to be making a comeback right now, and it seems to be have some good racing going on. Now, when you pulled your dad's truck out of the barn, went to the first race itself, how was that as a feeling, racing your dad's old Bronco? And I know that a lot of people have helped you, have been crew members of your dad's for years, but how did that feel going to your first race in your dad's Bronco?
It was really cool, like super nostalgic, just having a piece of history out there on the track. And a lot of people were like really impressed to see it back out and alive still. The first race we actually went to, I didn't get in the truck. I was actually just recovering from spine surgery. So I was not allowed to get in the truck and race. So my boyfriend, Matt, was doing the racing, as well as his passenger was one of his best friends. So it was hard to watch because I really wanted to be out there.
Yeah.
But it was really cool to cheer him on, and he did amazing. I think we broke 4 drive shafts. Like my job was to find scrap yards and just try and find anything we can get on the truck and get it back out on the track for the next race. So it was a crazy weekend. It really showed you what off-road racing is about. Like it just threw you in there, and that was that. But for my first time getting into the truck and actually driving it myself, it was insane. I was so nervous. Like, I think I call it blackout rage when I'm driving. I just go black. I don't look at the gauges. I can't see anything. I'm just driving. So to have that, I don't really remember my first race, but I know that it was fun. I know it was good. And obviously it was good enough to keep going. So,
well, that's the joys of having a co-driver, right? That's a co-driver's there to look at the gauges. And
yeah, so, now I've learned a little bit, and I'm a little bit more confident in the truck. So I do keep an eye on all my stuff now. But I'd say the first season was rough.
Now, you mentioned your boyfriend, Matt, and you guys shared driving for a couple of years, but you are doing this on your own this year, and he's running another Bronco as well, right?
Yes. Yeah, so it's the same year. It's white. We went down to Pennsylvania to pick it up. It's an awesome truck. He's had it out a few times this past season, just trying to perfect everything. It takes a while to get everything how you like it. So I will be in the truck by myself unless I have passengers that volunteer to hop in with me, which is going to be a little nerve-wracking. I feel like I like having someone beside me that can keep an eye and see where everyone else is running. So it'll be different, but we do have a lot of friends at the track that are more than happy to hop in. And if Trish wanted to come down, I'd be more than happy to take you for a ride. That would be awesome.
100%.
So it'll be different by myself, and it'll be different racing against my boyfriend instead of having him on my team and me what to do and okay, take this corner a little bit faster, because we have mics in the truck, which has made a huge difference. When we first started racing, we didn't, and it was all hand signals. So he would be going like this with his hand, and I'm like, 2? Shifted into 2? He's no faster, a little faster. It was a little bit of miscommunication there. But now that we have the mics and stuff, it definitely helps out with the advice, because I'd love to hear someone talk to me while I'm racing. I talk to myself. I'm crazy. I'm like singing the whole time. I love it.
With Trisha, it'll be screaming.
I just yell at myself. I'm like, go faster. You go faster.
So since you're going to be racing against each other, how competitive do you think it's going to be?
So competitive. Like, it's hilarious. He is really competitive. I think it's all fun. So I don't think there's going to be any bad blood between anyone. We're both still cheering each other on no matter what happens. And even like off the track, like he's amazing at putting the trucks together. Like he does, I'd say 95% of the prep. Like he is just on it, making sure everything is good to go for the races. He's packing the trailer. He's building the trucks. He actually just pulled out my engine last night, which I didn't know he was doing, which was so lovely of him. Yeah, he's so great that way. But I think it'll give me a little bit of extra drive to maybe go a little faster and be up there with him, because he's amazing. He's a really good driver. Ever since he got in that truck, it's natural to him. He just knows what to do and he does it good.
That's cool.
That's great. Do you guys have an opportunity to do practice, and not just practice at the track, but practice away from race day? Are you able to spend some more time in the vehicle and learn the vehicle a bit more and what works and what doesn't?
Yes and no. In the beginning, we have my grandparents' farm. So John McCrossan, his farm up in Uxbridge that we can run around at. And for the most part, when we would take the trucks there, it was to test the truck to make sure it would last a race more than actually getting practice and seat time. The last season, we went up to Eagle's Nest and they were amazing up there. They let us come up. They let us use the track for the whole day for free. They were awesome people, really loved them up there. So we spent all day up there playing around, which was really fun, and got to know that track really well. It actually ended up being one of my best races this past year, just because I think I was able to practice on the track and get a better feel for it. And then also our friend Roger has a farm that we have been to. We've played around with the trucks out there. And we do have a few places that we can go practice. We probably don't practice enough as we should, but yeah, we definitely do get out there.
It's cool.
Yeah, it's definitely hard to get the time between prepping vehicles and going to the races and your own life and work and all that stuff. Sure. But yeah, the more time you can spend in the vehicle, the better that you're going to be for sure. So now let's talk about the Bronco. It's an 80s style, but it's nowhere really close to stock. As you mentioned, your dad raced it in the late 80s, early 90s. What can you tell us about the Bronco?
So when we pulled it out, we went over that thing. We changed all the fluids, everything. And it was really cool because my granddad actually got in it. He ripped it around the farm. My dad got in it. I got in it. And then when Matt got in it, the engine blew. So there was our starting point. We brought it back to the shop and we took everything apart. Like everything came out of it, seats. It was just frame. So we tore it all apart. We've got everything rebuilt. So we have a 351 bored out to a 408 in it. We've got the C6 transmissions, which we did run for a while, but I burned those gears so bad. Our transmission builder, Pete Nolan, we gotta do something about this until you get more of a feel of shifting. We've actually put an automatic transmission in it. It's still the 3-speed, but I found it's made a huge difference with my racing, which is really cool. At first, we weren't really sure how we'd be able to get it in the corners and stuff, because you want to downshift and push it hard, right, when you're going into the corners. So it's taken a little bit of figuring out how to feather the gas pedal and drive it just a little differently. But for some reason, it makes more sense in my brain and I can focus on actually driving. Once I get a little bit better at driving and I get the feel of the truck a bit more, we're going to switch back to the manual. But for now, it's just automatic, which is really cool. We've also, when we first started racing, we had the original Rancho shocks on the truck that my dad ran with. We got them rebuilt. They didn't hold at all. So when we were going over those jumps, it was rough. Like, it was really bumpy. And we didn't know any different. We were like, okay, this is racing. And eventually we did upgrade to triple bypass shocks in each corner. And it's made a world of difference. It's crazy. We're not snapping axles like crazy. Like, it's beautiful to have such a smooth ride. So yeah, there's definitely been lots of upgrades, and it's every race, right? You're changing stuff, you're making modifications to make it work for the track, make it work for the truck, and make it work for you, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I've noticed, I watched some of the videos that you've been posting up on Instagram, and it's definitely landing a lot better than the earlier videos that I saw. And those shocks obviously make a huge difference on it for sure.
Oh.
One thing I did notice is the pink seat belts.
Yes. Everyone loves the pink seat belts. Yeah, I gotta just add a little touch of me in there. That when we got the seatbelts, it was still at the point where me and Matt were sharing the Bronco, and to say the least, he was not impressed. But at least the whole truck's not pink, right?
True. So last season, you ran blue and white paint on it, right?
Yes.
Do you have a change going for the 2024 season?
It's funny you say that. We've changed the color every season. It's insane. We just haven't found something that we love yet. I think we're going to stick with the blue and white. It's pretty nostalgic for me because it is my dad's Bronco, which he originally had red, but my mom had a blue and white Bronco as well. So it's cool to throw both of those in there. But yeah, I think it'll be staying blue and white for now.
Yeah, it's a nice blue and white two-tone kind of idea and it looks good. It looks like a factory style color, but it still looks really good.
Yeah, I was going to say no objection to the pink Bronco. Just saying, if it was like a nice baby pink, it might look good.
I do have a few more pink touches I'm going to throw in there. For a gift, Matt gave me some spark plug boots that are pink. So I'll have to throw those on. And there'll be some more pink touches. I'm sure you guys will see them in the new year.
That'd be cool. Do you have a name for your Bronco?
Yes, we call it the Piston Broke Bronco. Little play on words there.
Yeah.
Now, did your dad name it when he was racing?
I don't believe so. That's actually a really good question. I'd have to ask him. I know his race name when he started racing that Bronco was Hammerhead Racing, and then it graduated to McCrossan Motorsports. So, yeah, I'll have to ask him if he's got a name for that. That would be cool.
Being a female in a male-dominant sport, have you had or felt any kind of pushback in a way, or just like when you first started, was it more of not intimidating, but okay, I am a woman and in this like male industry racing thing? How was that?
Definitely intimidating, but no pushback, nothing. The guys have been nothing but kind and nice to me and helpful. They're always giving me advice, telling me how to take corners. Like, we all walk the track together, and I'm like a puppy dog. I'm like, what about this? What about this? What would you do here? So I'm always like soaking up information, asking the guys, following them around. And they've been nothing but kind and helpful and just willing to talk to me, willing to give me advice. And even when something goes wrong with the truck, everyone is like hands-on. I feel absolutely so blessed to have such an amazing crew of people around me and friends that are just so willing to drop everything and be like, okay, let's go help out Nicole and let's do this. Make sure it's working. Make sure we can get her out there. So no, I haven't felt any pushback, no resentment, nothing from the guys. I think everyone's really happy that I'm there, and I'm really happy that they enjoy my company.
Cool. That's good. That's
Company.
yeah, well, that's good. It's good to hear because, starting in male dominant sport, I've been through it myself too. So yeah, in the beginning, it's like very intimidating, but then you're like, oh, all these guys are so cool, and you soak up all the information and you just learn so much. And I think it's just part of the community too, like your community and all the different kinds of racing or off-roading communities is, I guess, the same in a way. So that's a good thing. Now, follow-up question to that. Are you the only women in that area, in that league?
So in the Ontario off-road racing so far, yes, I believe I'm the only girl that has raced. Previously, there might have been some women. I don't know.
There was.
Okay.
But from my time being at the track in the past 3 years, I'm the only girl that has raced there. There was one girl, I forget her name. She did do a stock car up in Eagle's Nest. She did just like time lapse. So I definitely made a point of reaching out to her and giving her some encouragement because that was her first time out there, which was really cool to see another girl getting in a vehicle and just giving it a shot.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I guess Wes, like way back, I guess when it started, there was probably women that time too, right?
It was Linda Lou Schlom, and I don't know if I pronounced her last name right, but Linda Lou, your dad would have raced with her, and she was probably one of the better racers to come out of Ontario. And she's the same thing. She won in Ontario, she won in the States, and she was a very, very popular, but it always has only been one or two along the way. And to be really interesting to see more women come to the plate. I think women a lot of times can be a better driver than men quite often.
Don't you start that.
But it's just the way a lot of times that they handle the equipment and stuff like that. I've seen that in the logging world where a lot of owners prefer to have women because they're smoother with the equipment, therefore easier on the equipment. And that in racing as well too. Everybody is different, and there's women that are absolutely monsters behind the wheel, and there's ones that are smoother behind the wheel. But yeah, there's definitely would love to see more women racers getting involved. And that, I guess, leads to another follow-up question. If somebody wanted to become more involved in off-road racing in Ontario, say whether it's a male or female, but particularly a female, what kind of advice would you get them to get them involved in the racing? If they come to you and say, I don't have a rig, but I want to learn how to do this, I want to get involved, what do I do?
I would probably tell them just to come out to the track, come and meet people, get to know people, talk to people. And when there's a will, there's a way. You can grab a junky truck, and as long as you've got the rules and you've got all the safety equipment followed, just come out and have fun, right? You're not out there to win big bucks. So you just put what you can into it and you just do it. Just do it. Don't let anything hold you back, right? I've convinced so many people to just get a truck and come out. I think we're going to have a few new people out this season that have come to watch us that are like, oh, this is pretty cool. I want to do this. So I'm really excited to see some new faces out there. But yeah, just do it.
Yeah, I agree 100% with you. Come out and even just come out and watch or come out and volunteer to help with somebody. And that's another good way to learn about the vehicles and maybe be able to hop in for a ride with somebody along the way. And it doesn't have to be a super expensive class. There's the truck classes, but there's also the mini truck class, and there's the 1600 buggy class. And you can pick up a 1600 buggy for sale for a decent price. And there's actually, that's another female that I don't know if she's still racing anymore, but Stu Telsma's daughter, she raced one of his buggies for a few years, but I'm not sure if she's still. Yeah, Allie. Yeah.
Allie is around. Yeah, Allie is still around. I didn't know she raced. I knew she hopped in and rode in them sometimes. So I didn't know she raced. That's awesome.
Yeah. She raced for a few years, I think. Clarify that with her and Stu, right?
I'd have to chat with her about that. But yeah, no, she's still around the track. She still comes all the time. She's got the sweetest little daughter now. So she's always running around the track, hopping in everyone's truck and everything out. It's so cute.
There's something about the smaller racing organizations that I've always loved. I've been to some of the bigger races down in the States and that, but something about these smaller series, whether it be in Ontario or BC or Michigan or whatever, that it's a family. So it doesn't matter whether you're a buggy racer, it doesn't matter whether you're a truck racer, it doesn't matter whether you are rivals with the guy pitted next to you. Somebody comes in and needs a hand. I've been pulling out motors at 2:00 in the morning, and we're sent somebody 4 towns over to get a transmission or transfer case or whatever. And it's everybody jumps in and helps everybody. And I don't know if they still do it, but they used to have the potluck at the races, and everybody brings something to eat for the potluck. And it's just a real family.
We still celebrate people's birthdays if they happen to be close to the race weekend, and they bring cupcakes, and everyone hangs out at night after the races. Like you said, it's a big family, and I love it. I think that's my favorite part of racing is just that family atmosphere. And even if we show up and we get one race in and we can't finish the weekend, we're just so happy to still help people and volunteer flag. Being there and being involved in it is more than you could ask for.
Yeah, definitely a lot of fun with these smaller venues like that. We all have our favorite tracks. You take a look at Brockville. Brockville's been around for 20 plus years, whatever it is. And it's not necessarily the track that is the best out there, but it's the atmosphere there between the mud drags, tractor pulls, the mud bogs, and they used to have bands and karaoke. I don't know if they still do or not, but and it can also be it can also be a bit of a gong show after 9 p.m., but that's always been one of the favorites. What are your favorite tracks?
Well, I love Brockville for all the reasons you said. It's crazy. I think the first time we drove in, I looked at Matt and Matt looked at me and we were like, what are we getting into? I'm like, where are we? There's guys running around on 4-wheelers with hard hats and beer on each side with straws into their mouth. Like, it was just total redneck, so crazy. It was definitely, the atmosphere was just amazing. It was so fun. And that was actually my first track that I had my first win on. So that was really cool. I do enjoy that track. But I'd have to say my absolute favorite would be Bancroft or Eagle's Nest. Bancroft was really cool. The train was so different. It was very muddy. And the track was set up for the mega trucks because they had the mega trucks out there was their main show. And they were letting us run on the track as well. So the jumps were weird. The corners were weird. Everything was just not set up for racing, but I loved it. Like, it was just something different, something challenging to get your mind working and try new things, try different lines, see what works for you, what doesn't. And I did really well that weekend. I think I placed first every race that weekend as well. So that was a really fun track. And then Eagle's Nest was really cool. I think it's one of our longer tracks. And it's great for the spectators because we come like right in front. There's these 2 little hops that we come right in front of them. So that's cool for them to watch. And I got to race my dad there. So that was really special. And I may or may not have beat him, but it was definitely cool to get out there and race with him. And like I mentioned before, we have the radios. So me and Dad were able to talk to each other through the trucks. So we were kind of each other up while we're on the track. And it was a really fun one. So yeah, they're all really fun. But I have to say that Eagle's Nest and Bancroft are definitely up there.
That's cool.
Yeah, the videos that I've seen and the photos I've seen of Eagle's Nest was definitely different. And that's I saw your dad's Bronco out there racing. And that must be cool, racing against your dad. He's the one that brought you into the sport kind of idea, and racing against him, that must have been pretty cool.
It's definitely a really special moment for me. I'm very nostalgic, and to be able to do something like that and say that I was on a track with him in his old Bronco is just, it's really cool. It's not an experience that many people can say they have. And just to be able to do that and share the same passion that he had and still has to this day with him it's amazing. It's better than going out and playing golf or something with your dad racing beside him, bumping into each other. It's no mercy. It doesn't matter that I'm his daughter. But
I did happen to see him in one of the videos spin out in front of you guys.
He did. Yes. Got a little squirrely there.
So we should mention that your dad, Steve McCrossan, he was one of my first guests on the podcast about a year and a half ago. And we're on episode 73 right now. And I believe he actually might have been episode number 3. I got to confirm that. But yeah, I do recommend our listeners, if you have not heard the interview that I had with Steve, I definitely recommend going back to that episode back in July or August 2022. But have a listen, because we talked about the Ontario days. We talked about racing the Pro 4, and we also talked about the transition of going from short course wheel-to-wheel racing and then hopping into a short wheelbase early Bronco and racing the NORA race down in Mexico. And that's a big change, right? It's a total mind shift, change. Your driving style changes, your plans change in regards to how hard you race and stuff like that. But it was a really neat interview with Steve. So I do recommend our listeners go back and listen to it. I do want to bring up NORA, because you went down to that with your dad, right?
I did, yes.
How was that?
It was amazing. It was a once-in-a-lifetime experience that we actually, I don't know if it's released on our Instagram yet, but we are going back down again this year to participate in the 1000, which is going to be exciting. But no, it was an amazing experience. It's hard to describe it to people, really, because I was a co-driver for the last day. So we went from, I believe it was La Paz to Cabo. And it was one of the easier days, I was told, but it was insane. I wish I could be a little bit more present in the moment, but I was so focused on telling him about his cautions, where to go, following the GPS. And my dad, he is just so relaxed, so calm driving. We've got a 300-foot drop into the ocean, a cliff on the other side, and he's driving with one hand, looking out at the scenery. And I know in his interview with you, he said that he was focused on the track the whole time. He wishes he could look. But I'm telling you guys, he was enjoying that sunset while I was shitting my pants. So it was intense. And to know that was one of the easier days, I can't imagine what the other co-drivers and him had to experience going through the desert. But yeah, just hearing the stories from when they'd come back, they were absolutely exhausted. Like the endurance that they had to build up to prepare for the race and everything. It was crazy, like just insane. But we are going to do it again. We're crazy enough to do it. So it's going to be really good. We've got an awesome crew going down again this year. And yeah.
It's interesting. I think some of the crew that you guys have got with the Broncos are some of the people that used to race with your dad or be on the crew with your dad years ago as well, too. So that's interesting to see the friendships that have remained over the years. There's Donnie and a few other guys that have been with him for years. And it goes back to that whole thing of family. So they're probably just like family to you, having grown up around these guys.
Oh, they definitely are family. And yeah, Donnie Smith is going to come down with us again. And his son, Hayden, is also going to come down with us. And we've got Rob Purcell, his girlfriend, Raven. Roger hopefully is going to come with us. And then Steve, his wife, Mary, myself, and Matt. So it'll be a good crew. And it like you said, it's nice that I grew up with all of them. And we raced with Rob as well. Rob's been very helpful with the whole experience and getting us out on the track. He's actually rebuilt our engine a couple times with us. So he's genius on the mechanical end of things. So he's always been very helpful. I think we're going to be throwing in an oil pump into my engine with him in the near future. So that'll be exciting. But yeah, it's all truck stuff. That's all we do.
That's true. Exactly.
Now, I wanted to go back to the tracks because I'm familiar, but not really familiar. Like, what kind of type of terrain you guys actually drive in? Is it always mud? Is it always like a lot of water pits? Like, how does it typically look at the tracks that you race here in Ontario?
So in Ontario, it's just dirt, and it depends on how much it rains. It could be mud, it could be a water pit, but for the most part, it's just dirt.
So they are a bit of a wider track. You can run 2 to 3 vehicles. Sometimes they narrow right down to 1 vehicle width as well. And they do get rutted up in that, but they're not made to be really hard tracks in regards to vehicle braking tracks or whatever, right?
So mostly flat. And are there also any, what should I say, hills? Not hills, but
jumps.
Jumps, yeah.
Yeah.
Jumps. Are there any jumps?
There's a few small jumps. There's not many tracks in Ontario that you can get a lot of air off of.
Okay.
I think they were working on Eagle's Nest, trying to modify it just from the driver feedback of last year. So we might get a little bit more there. But no, there's no crazy jumps or anything. But like you're saying, it usually can fit 1 to 2 vehicles beside each other. And it's mostly just like there's hills and divots and corners.
Okay. So there's possible areas to pass and take over and
Yes. Oh,
each
100%.
other and stuff. Okay. Okay. Okay.
And then the track changes as the day progresses or as the weekend progresses too, right? You can have a beautiful first race of the day or first practice of the day or of the weekend. It can be a beautiful track that's smooth. And then by the end of the weekend, you can be hitting into these ruts into corners. And so it changes. That's one of the interesting things is it changes every lap. So you got to be careful. You got to be on your toes because where you're hitting a corner a certain way 2 laps ago, you can't do that anymore because of the ruts and stuff like that have happened.
Yeah, makes sense.
You're always changing your lines. You're always looking ahead and trying to plan ahead on where you're going to go and what the truck's going to do and what's the best.
So what made you want to start off-road racing?
I think it's just been in the family. And like I said before, so my dad, he raced. My brother raced snowmobiles, dirt bikes. He did a little bit with my dad's old Pro 4. My grandfather raced. So everyone raced. I was always the horse girl growing up. So I had the ponies and I would go to the horse shows and stuff like that. I still do have a horse, but like I said before, I was in an accident that I had to have some spine surgery. So unfortunately, I can't really do as much what I used to do with riding. And so we turned to race trucks, which sounds crazy, but it is safer than horseback riding. You're strapped into your 5-point harness. You're as tight as can be. So yeah, I think it was always a thought in the back of my mind. It was always something I wanted to do. I wanted to get into. And especially with my family being so involved, it was an easy in to convince my dad that this is what we're going to do now. But I think it was also a change of hobbies just to keep busy and keep moving forward. Because I think after something like that happens, when you do have major surgery like that, you almost feel, what can I do? Right? So I think to just keep moving forward and keep busy and keep doing something new just gave me that drive to get up and keep working and keep going.
That's awesome. No, I was really interested into the whole track, like knowing what kind of tracks there was. So it popped in my mind.
I could describe them better. I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay because I can picture in my head, and I've seen track racing, so I'm just like, okay, how wide is it? Like, how big are you catching? Like, how much air are you catching? Like, how hard are you hitting that? And then breaking stuff at the bottom. I'm just trying to thinking of that.
There was one jump in Bancroft where the guy, he hit it so hard, he snapped his whole front axle, just boom. And like I said, it was built for the mega trucks, right? So the suspension is totally different.
Right.
But yeah, there's some that I guess you could get some like pretty decent air off of, but it's hard to tell when you're in the truck, right? Sometimes it feels like you're flying over those things. Then you see a video and you're like, oh, I got like a foot of air. And then sometimes you're falling forever and you're like, oh, that was like nothing. And then you watch a video and you're like, holy crap, I can't believe how high I was.
Yeah.
It's definitely hard to tell when you're in the truck.
Yeah. Plus, I watch like a lot of dirt bike videos. So I watched everybody just going flying and doing all this. I'm like, okay, they're not doing that, but.
Not.
But I have explained it before to people that haven't seen a short course off-road racing. It's wheel-to-wheel racing. It's a cross between a sprint car and motocross. And that's the only way I can really describe it. It's you're getting the airtime like you are in motocross, maybe not quite as much, but you're also in a vehicle going 2 or 3 vehicles wide into a corner kind of idea. So it's an ultimate rush. It
is. Definitely is. There's contact. There's like people are pulling people over. There's been some times where some of the guys get stuck in the mud, and if you're going, like, you just got to go, and you're face to face with the drivers, and they're just like, you're going to hit me. And I'm like, I'm going to hit you. You got to do what you got to do sometimes. And it's always funny after the fact because you're checking your truck and you're looking at the paint and you're like, okay, I see some blue paint there, some orange paint there, like who hit me here or whatever. Right? So there definitely is contact. It gets pretty crazy. There's some rollovers, there's some crashes, but we just keep doing it. People say
yeah. It's the fun. It's the fun of it's the fun, right?
it is the adrenaline for sure.
Yeah.
So you guys went down to a race in the States last year. Are you guys looking at doing more stateside racing as well as the Ontario racing next year?
We would like to, for sure. The States are amazing. The States are actually, the tracks are really cool down there. They are longer, they're bigger, the jumps are bigger. I think they are really set up for the drivers. The people who build the tracks down there, they really have an awesome knowledge of what it's like to drive a truck and how it feels. So they just are, the tracks are so cool down there. We would love to go down, and we have lots of friends down there. We'd love to go back down to Chilton and do a few more races down there. That would be really cool. Yes.
Have you ever thought about hopping into a buggy? If somebody offered you to go out in a buggy, is that something you'd be interested in?
I've never thought about it. I'm always down to try something new. I would definitely, if it was offered, I would definitely give it a shot. But no, it's never crossed my mind before.
A true truck person. I love it.
Yeah.
But buggies are different.
To my Bronco, to say the least. Yeah. I would probably go back to the Bronco, but hey, if someone's offering me a buggy, I'll go rip it up.
It'd definitely be interesting to go out and even for practice or one race or something like that and run a buggy and just to, because they are a different beast. It's totally,
you'd be so much
the
lower to
is different. Yeah.
Insane.
Yeah. Yeah. And if it's muddy, you're constantly taking the tear offs because you get so much muddier in that. But just the whole handling of the buggy with the engine being at the back, being rear engine, 2-wheel drive. Now, that's another question too. Are you usually running the Bronco on most tracks? Are you running it in 2-wheel drive or are you running it in 4?
We're 4-wheel drive. Yeah.
Yeah. You're just keeping it in 4-wheel drive all the time. Okay.
Yeah.
I know some guys, depending on the track, will put it into 2-wheel drive if it's a more 2-wheel drive friendly track, but I wasn't sure if you guys keep it in 4 all the time. One thing we haven't talked about is let's do a shout out to some of your sponsors. It's not an easy sport to be in, and everybody has a little bit of help along the way. So let's give a shout out to some of those people that do help you.
Yeah, so there's absolutely so many people that give us a hand, but obviously I would love to say thanks to Maddie. He is huge, like I said earlier. He preps the trucks. I wouldn't be able to finish a race without him. So first thanks would go to him. Cannington Construction, which is my father's company, does help us out quite a bit. Nick at KMP Auto is amazing. Pete Nolan is our transmission builder. Ed at ES Auto, he is so great. That poor guy. We come in like the day before a race and we're like, Ed, we need this. And he's, okay, I'll make it happen. And he pulls through for us every time, which is great. Matt at Speedy Engine is our engine builder for the most part, as well as Rob also gives us a hand with that. Jeff Sargent, who I'm sure that's a familiar name for you.
Yep.
He's definitely helped us out when we first started. He helped us go over the truck, helped us get parts for it, and find different places to resource parts from. And then Jeff at Converter Man is another man that I would like to say thank you to. And then, my dad and Rob Purcell have been huge in helping us. We wouldn't be able to do it without any of these guys. Yep. And it's just, we're so appreciative that they all do give us a hand and they're willing to stick out for us kids.
It's funny that you bring up Peter Nolan. Nolan's, the two brothers, they've been building transmissions since the 80s. And you know, they're in the 80s and 90s, they're building everybody's racing transmissions. And it's really happy to see that Peter's still doing it.
He is. He's still, we keep him very busy. We love him. We'll go up and chat with him for hours. He's been a long-time family friend, and he always tells me stories about when I was little and running around in diapers and he was babysitting me. So it's cool to come full circle.
Yeah, exactly. And like I mentioned, it's really neat to see some of the guys still involved with the racing and with your dad and as well too.
Who would you like to listen on the 4x4 Canada podcast?
I would love to hear, if we're talking Canadian, I would love to hear from Roger McGuinness. I think he's got a lot of amazing stories to tell. And I've heard lots of them, but I think it would be really cool to share with everyone else. And then another man that I would love to hear from, who is a buggy driver with the Ontario Off-Road Racing, is Paul Robertson. He is an older gentleman. Yep. And he has just been a huge inspiration for me in the past season, especially. We've had some awesome chats in his trailer over a beer, and he's given me a lot of confidence to put my foot down a little harder and go a little faster and push my limits. So I think he would be a great guest for this podcast. I think a lot of people would be inspired by him the same way I am.
I agree 100% on both of them. Paul Robertson, I do have to get a hold of him. And people like him is one of the reasons that I started this podcast. Paul Robertson is an icon in off-road racing in Ontario. And not only is he a great driver, but his personality. He is such a mellow guy, but he's just like a grandpa. And
yeah, and the last race, there was a lot of corners, and I get a little squirrely around the corners just because I have rolled the truck before, and you're always pushing the limits, but you don't want to go too far, right? And we had a chat in his trailer the night before, and he just slammed his foot to the ground. You just put your foot down and you just go. Right. So that last race, like I said before, I'm always talking to myself when I'm racing. So I'm driving the truck as hard as I can, and I'm screaming. I'm like, do it for Paul, do it for Paul. He's an awesome guy. Really cool.
He is such a nice guy. And I spent numerous times in his trailer as well, and numerous beers drank with him as well too. But yeah, he's such a gentleman, such a nice guy, and he's willing to help out anybody kind of idea. And I think there's a lot of off-road racers in Ontario that look up to him for sure. So now Roger McInnes, he's running the Pro Light, isn't he? Or
yeah, so he had a Pro Light that Rob runs, and he runs a Pro 2.
Okay.
Or Pro 4. Okay. Sorry, Pro 4.
Okay.
Yeah, Roger runs Pro 4.
I have seen the name around. I've seen photos and stuff like that. So yeah, I definitely want to get him on board too. Definitely.
He's a really cool guy to talk to. So he's come down to Mexico with us, and he's come out to a few of the races with his truck. He's been pretty busy this past season, but hopefully he'll get out more. But yeah, he's been involved with the Pro 4s in Crandon racing. So he's got the state side, and he's also got history with the Ontario off-road racing. So he's all over the map as well. So he'd be really cool to chat with.
Definitely, we'll put him on the list. We'll get him on for sure. The Ontario Off-Road Racing Association has been around for years. Doug Sutton was the guy that started back in the early 70s and has gone through different stages and a few different names over the years, but it's a great little series in Ontario. Like I say, there's limited buggies, there's unlimited buggies, there's the Class 7, the mini trucks, there's the 4x4s, and they haven't got their new season out yet, but I believe they're should be hopefully coming out soon. And if any of our listeners in Ontario, they're worth going out just to watch. They're a fun time, and it's the cheap entertainment for the family. And one of the other nice things too is you can wander through the pits after a lot of these races and see these vehicles up close and see the drivers and see the dents and the mud and all that stuff. I was going to say that's one thing about all the races, that everybody is so welcoming to people coming through the pits and talking to them and talking to the kids and talking to the adults that are kids at heart. And that's one of the best parts about going to some of these races.
Yeah, I love when the kids come over to our pits and we throw them up in the truck and they're playing with the steering wheel and clicking all the buttons and stuff. And it's cool to just see that like little spark light in them when it's, maybe one day they'll get in a truck or get in a buggy or something, right?
Yeah. Once again, we were talking to Nicole McCrossan, and I want to thank you for coming on board again. It's been a really blast. And I know that Trisha is now even more geared up to go check out some of the racing this year in Ontario. She's close by, and hopefully it would be great to have her pop in and as a co-driver. Nicole, thank you for joining us. I know it's late over there. I appreciate you staying up late to talk to Trisha and I, and wishing you the best in the 2024 season. I'm looking forward to seeing more videos come out and on Instagram, and I keep on saying I want to get out to Ontario. Probably won't happen this year, but I'm hoping for next year. so that I can hopefully hit up one of the Ontario off-road racing races and Overland North the following weekend, and hit two of my favorite events out there. It'd be good to sit around the fire with Paul and your dad and everybody and yourself, of course. So, Trisha, we'll get you out there.
Yeah.
I know we'll get you hooked.
I'm itching.
We'll get...
I'm itching. Well, my foot's already, the gas pedal, my foot's already going. Let's go.
Even if Wes doesn't make it out this year, you've got my Instagram information.
Yeah.
Shoot me a message.
Yeah, I will.
Come hang out with us.
Yeah, I will.
The family, so you don't have to be worried about coming by yourself, or bring some girlfriends, like whatever.
I'll bring all the girl. I'll bring a couple of my Jeep girls. Like we'll with. Yeah, they'll love it. Yeah.
Yeah, and the races aren't that far away either now that they've got Eagles Nest and stuff like that. So it's definitely a lot closer than Brockville.
Brockville's a bit of a mesh, but it's definitely worth it if you love like mudding and
I love mudding. My Jeep just loves mud. She loves it. She goes in it. She goes in the water. She goes in the mud. It's just
And you have to bring it out. You have to. Something that you just can't not experience.
Yeah, no, I have to come out for sure. For sure.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks, Nicole. I really appreciate you coming on board, and we will chat soon.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.